There was a time, a handful of decades ago, when gas was cheap and money seemed to be plentiful. This was the era of the ever-growing larger SUV. It was a time when excursions roamed the earth. Those days are seemingly gone as the excursion has gone away. The Suburban still kicks around. That's one of the longest running nameplates of all vehicles, period. But there's still a need for some people to have large, full-size, capable SUVs. That's where a car like this comes in. This is the all-new 2018 Ford Expedition. Ford followed the lead that it generated when it created the redesigned F-150. It transferred that knowledge over to the Expedition, and we have a vehicle fitted with lightweight aluminum body panels. There's still a high-strength steel frame underneath, but those lighter body panels helped the Expedition shed 300 pounds over the outgoing models. So now it tips the scales just below the 6,000-pound mark. For reference, the Tahoe and the Yukon Denali are just above it. So what else is going on here? Well, there's no monstrous V8 anymore. This has that 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged EcoBoost engine, and it's paired with the now getting familiar 10-speed automatic gearbox. This makes a bit more horsepower than the F-150 version, though. Here we've got 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. That's just up a little bit over the F-150 and down a bit compared to the high-output EcoBoost engine employed in the Raptor. If you want to compare this again to the Yukon with its 6.2-liter V8, that one makes 420 horsepower, but it makes a bit less torque. I think that one's around 460 compared to this aforementioned 480. Now, Ford has done a good job of updating the Expedition. It is much nicer in here than I remember older Expeditions being. There's nice faux wood. It looks fine. The leather, though, is nice, too. This is an upscale platinum model, so you expect nicer creature comforts. Now, it's still very much a Ford inside, and I don't have a problem with that, but if you're going to pay $60-something thousand for a vehicle that isn't a Mercedes or a BMW, maybe you expect a little bit more luxury. But those versions, those full-size offerings from the Germans are now $80,000, $100,000. So if you're familiar with Ford, you're going to be familiar with the inside of this vehicle. You've got the updated sync system here in the middle with its touchscreen interface. You've got the vehicle information system in front of you that can display your speed, your towing information, your off-road information, various things like that. Your fuel economy, let's just take a peek and see where we're at for, 16.1. That's actually not bad in a vehicle that weighs 6,000 pounds. Now, this is the Platinum, so it comes standard with available four-wheel drive, but I like keeping it in 2 high because I'm in Southern California. This does have selectable drive modes as well. It has run through the normal, eco, sport. Now, when you put it into sport, one thing it does is it gets rid of the start-stop, it turns that off, and switches to 4 auto. I don't like that, so I always put it back into 2 high because I don't need 4 auto, and if I wanted to do some sweet, sweet burnouts, maybe I'd be up to the task. But if you keep going into the drive modes, you find tow haul, you find mud and ruts, you find sand, grass, gravel, and snow, and then back to normal. Those drive modes are reminiscent and pulled from the old school relationship with Land Rover. The layout looks familiar, the naming looks familiar. Now, the engine under the hood sounds like it'd be small for a vehicle like this, and I mean, it is small, but again, 480 pound-feet of torque. And a good thing about EcoBoost motors is they make their torque low, and they carry it through the rev range. So when it's time to go, this thing goes. Max towing capability on this is about 9,300 pounds, I believe, which is a good amount for an Expedition. If you want to tow more than that, you're obviously going to be looking at Super Duty trucks and dualies and things of that nature to get your toy haulers and your fifth wheel related shenanigans and get out to the desert. There's some sound there too, just much like in the F-150. If you bury your foot a little bit, it wakens up. There's some noise. I'd almost like to see, because again, since this is the same motor that the Raptor is using, there's some Raptor-like tones. It'd be kind of fun to see a Raptorized Expedition. In fact, they do make an off-road version though, which is kind of cool. They have an FX4 variant of the Expedition. It adds more aggressive and better tuned shocks and suspension. It adds 7 skid plates to protect all the sensitive bits underneath, and you get aggressive off-road tires as well. Also, there's a mechanical limited slip out back on that FX4. Now, in terms of comfort, these seats are excellent. Much like when we reviewed the F-150 Limited, these are really soft, nicely bolstered. This has heating and cooling. This has massage functions. This has the type of amenities and luxuries you would expect for a vehicle costing over $60,000. The base price for an Expedition is $52,000. This one, again, platinum. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got that Bang & Olufsen, well, Harman Kardon. It's the B&O Play System by Harman Kardon. It sounds fantastic. I'm having no issues there. One feature I do like that this Expedition has, though, wireless charging. I like that on my phone because now iPhone's finally caught up. So if you take your phone and then you just plop it down here in the wireless charging area, you see it turn on, it makes that bing noise, and your phone starts charging. So your phone's always ready to go. There's USB ports next to it, though, if you need them. There's a 12-volt power outlet right there. There's power in the back. The third row is power adjustable. If you're in the back of this thing and you need to move the seats up and down, you just hold the switch. It's nice, and it's also kind of annoying because it'd be really easy to just throw the switch. Hitting those horns. It'd be just real easy to just throw the switch, but also, I mean, if your hands are full, you can just hit the button and let it go. You can choose if you want to do 60/40 or the whole thing at once. Nice features like that. Another great feature, adding to the air of luxurious of this vehicle, is this big old sunroof. It's kind of nice to let all the light shine in. You can close it up with a touch of a button if you want. I'm not going to do that because I have a camera mounted up there. But I think the biggest takeaway with this vehicle is that you don't need a V8 in it. Much like when I said with the F-150, we all love V8s. The noise, the power, just the saying V8, you go, it just creates something stirring inside of you. But when you have this EcoBoost motor, which getting more and more used to that tone, and you floor it, this isn't normal too. I'm not in sport right now, so it's not tons of power, but it gets out of its own way very nicely. I'm going to put it in sport though to do a proper demonstration. Let me just wait for this to switch. Now, an area where I'm a bit let down, though, is how ponderous the vehicle feels. It's meant to be comfortable, so the suspension is probably a little bit softer than I'd like, and you notice that when you're bounding down the road. If you hit a random imperfection in the road the wrong way, it can kick the vehicle, it can upset the balance of the vehicle, and that's not something you want in a vehicle this size. Bigger vehicles take a bit more concentration. Everybody should be concentrating, from the guy in the Corolla, the guys on the motorcycles. Everybody should be paying attention. But, your mind wanders a bit, but in this, you just absolutely can't. Again, though, you have the lane keep system, which is great. This isn't a device to make people who don't pay attention safer. It's just, I don't want to say like you can distracted drive and just be like, oh, what's going on over there? The steering wheel's going to fix it. It's fine. No, that's not how these things work. It's just an aid to assist you, assuming you're already paying attention. So pay attention, especially in a 6,000-pound shed on wheels. On the outside, the styling feels a little bit full-size SUV derivative. There isn't much you can do with boxiness. I mean, there's even a little bit of like last-gen Tahoe in the profile, which is a bit of a shame. Up front, it's clearly a Ford. Out back, it just looks like an oversized Explorer, which is fine. That's not a knock. The new Explorer is a great vehicle, especially the sport version. It feels like a budget Range Rover Sport. So there's a lot to enjoy here with the new Expedition. You can always applaud when an automaker is able to shed weight. That's always a great thing. And they're able to make use of these smaller displacement forced induction engines. That saves you money at the pump, but it still delivers all the power. Sport mode, here, kick down. I mean, it's not blowing my hair back, but we're moving 70, 80. So like the mid-range power is fine. On the highway, you would have no problem passing those people who aren't paying attention, which happens all the time in California because people are terrible at driving out here for some reason. It's just how it goes. So if you need a vehicle this size, you have some good options out there. You can spend Cadillac Escalade money and get the Escalade, because the Escalade is actually now a really wonderful vehicle since it's been updated. It looks great on the outside. Nothing feels cheap like it used to on the inside. But if you don't need all that bling, step down to a Yukon. If you still want some luxury, that's a fantastic vehicle as well. On the Ford side, if you're a Ford guy, the Expedition is here. If you need to jump to the new Navigator, I haven't driven it yet, but if this is any indication of what to expect, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. It would be a higher trim level of this, essentially. So a nicer version of this with differentiated styling. That's cool. I'm down with that. collision alert is letting me know that people aren't paying attention and I have to go around them. Yes, you off-road Jeep. So if you need a large 3-row, you should look at the Expedition. If you need a vehicle larger than this, what are you doing? But if you do, just get a Sprinter. I mean, the Excursion died for a reason. Some people are holding on to them. They love having the big diesel engines in them. But if you really need that class of vehicle, buy a bus or a Sprinter. Otherwise, the Expedition is all the vehicle that most people would ever need. It's more vehicle than most people would ever need. And thankfully, it's good. So it's a good more vehicle. A good more vehicle. I done learned the English real bigly good. Actually, there's a G-Wagon going by right now. G63. Welcome to Orange County. Actually, that is a press vehicle. EcoBoost. Oh, this car's in front of me. It's so weird to have a V6 and an Expedition. It'd be really cool if they eventually add the upcoming 3-liter diesel as an option. That'd be a great engine for this vehicle as well. But the EcoBoost does its job. So. All right. Adios.